Hari Om. Today we are here again to discuss something very important to you. That's about yourself. Contentment of yourself. So I just want to throw some light and take you into a very short journey of self, about the self, with a capital S, the self. Contentment of the self. Most of the time, in spite of being blessed with everything, every blessing showering upon us, still somewhere contentment is missing. And that contentment of the self I'm talking. Contentment is not physical, because physical desires are countless. Physical expectations are countless, one after the other. There'll be any number of long lists. So that contentment that comes from within. So I'm talking about contentment of the self. What is self? I'm giving you this view. Self is, um, your soul, your Atman, your inner self. That is what is your self now.
So, who is self?
Okay, who is self? That little something inside you, that little something that is invisible inside you, who sometimes talk to you, who sometimes tells you what is to be done, that little something who leaves your body when we uh, leave this physical body, that little something goes out of this, the soul, the self, that goes away. So that self which is awakened, which keeps telling you, which keeps pulling you into the righteous path, that self, with most of the people, that goes into slumber.
But why does he go into slumber?
You want to know why it goes into slumber? Because we have been inactive about this little something called self, which is so huge. We have kept this self in a it remains inactive. We have kept it in a inactive way, and we have allowed that self, the physical self to be more important, and my emotional self to be more important, and the spiritual self to be the lesser important. The spiritual self comes from the word spirit. Spirit is soul, your own inner self, and that self to be, that because it's invisible, it's very small, we're not able to understand it. It takes a many janmas, many lifetimes of journey to understand that self. And that self is nowhere little, that is huge, very large, eternal, imperishable. But people, by mistake, with their mistaken identity, they make it very small and little and inactive.
So, who makes him inactive?
That's an intelligent question. It's me, my outer self, that makes it inactive. That's my physical personality that makes it inactive. My physical personality, the outer body of mine, the physical body, in generic, I'm talking about. This physical body lives with a large ego, and he thinks he's everything. The physical, mental, the emotional, all these bodies are running in different directions, and they tear this apart. They tear each other apart. And in that process, um, a, a disciple, as a human being in the spiritual path, he struggles to bring these bodies, synergize these bodies together. The emotional is running somewhere, the mental is running somewhere, the physical seems to be living with huge ego that I am going to live permanently and I can destroy everything. That big I capital I, that awakens. And because of that, we forget to synergize and merge all these bodies. Emotions are our blessings as being born as human beings. We are blessed to be emotional, but then we should not be ruled by the emotional stuff. The same way, human incarnation as human beings, we are blessed to have this brain. But then mental body's activity shouldn't be to that extent where it corrupts me completely. It reduces me into mere physical body. I should always be alert that I am just not this physical body. I have that soul within me, holding me, guiding me, and taking me ahead.
How do I believe I have such bodies, like which I can't see?
How do you believe you have such bodies which you can't see? That's very right. Let me ask you, do you see your brain, your mind? I mean, you can see your brain when you cut your skull open, but you don't see the thoughts there. You can't see your thoughts there. The same way, you have heart, but do you see that emotional heart? You have a physical heart which pumps out blood, but you don't have that emotional heart inside. You don't know where it is. But what do we do? Whenever we have to express our love to each other, what do? We make a sign of a heart. So heart, that love quotient, that emotional aspect of ours is beautiful, and it is etheric. It is invisible. The same way, my mental body that creates enormous thoughts, that is also invisible. I can't see that. But then, do I stop my thoughts? Am I able to govern my thoughts? That's the big question. So, thoughts will continue as long as we are alive, and emotions will begin to play as long as we are alive. That way, your self, your spirit, is very much there. The only thing is that we get blinded with the worldly life, attachments, and all other human emotions, and the mind churning various thoughts of whether to believe this or whether to believe that, and it goes into several modes, and the physical body is as usual busy into its existence. So, with that, we tend to forget about the existence of the self.
How do I know the self?
Well, you want to know about yourself, your soul, your spirit, go in for meditation. Contemplation, take some self time. I have always advocated self time. That is very important, to sit and contemplate. And it's not that you need to sit in a corner and for half an hour and 1 hour and just think about, brood about what is myself and meditate, because that way you will get bored. It's simple contemplation. It's uh, simply your personal time. So whenever you have your personal, you know, mm, talk within you, your personal talk, then that something within you, that spirit of you, that self of you, will communicate to you, and that is what will tell you, I am that self. Try taking some time first, then you will know.
What will happen to me when I know myself?
That's beautiful. What will happen to you when you know yourself? You become the self. You just become the self. Now, when you know what is your soul, when you know that you are the soul also, when you know that integration of all these bodies with your spirit, with yourself, with your soul is very important, then you begin to behave like the self. You begin to behave like that higher self that you have. At the moment, what happens is that sadly we have forgotten that I am the self, or I have a higher self which looks like me. The only difference is that my physical body, which we call as sthul sharir, means the dense body, the matter, the denser body, is too busy, occupied with worldly things. And as I said before, the mental and the emotional body tears it apart. With all that, the higher self is not aligned. So when you align with your higher self, the higher self is the same, self of you, the physical self of you. The only difference is it vibrates with higher frequency of light. It vibrates with enormous light and love, and that is what you will become, an embodiment of purest of love and light.
And what is that self?
That self of yours is pure bliss, pure contemplation, which makes you realize you are not just this. So far, tragically, large number of us, human beings, our brothers and sisters, they live, but they forget to remember that they are beyond this physical body. They earn money, they do everything in life, but they forget about their own shadow, which is bright and brilliant, called their higher self. And the self is nothing but, as I said before, is the purest form of you. This embodiment is denser, is matter. So, as per the conditioning of this body is always a requirement. And that requirement is supported and motivated by two other bodies, the mental body and the emotional body, that keeps chasing, pushing, pulling, tearing apart, and never letting the physical body rest and think about, am I all this? Was I born just for this? Am I here only to be working, earning, living, mating, and not understanding my worth of what I am as a human being? That little question, when you start to put, yourself is very eager to answer you. Yourself is when in a normal language, you say, it's myself, yourself. But what is that self? That self is your own unlimited potential. That self is your own unlimited light and love that you have, but you have not expressed it out because you have always believed love comes from your heart. That's very minimal, because love that comes from your heart would be only for your own people, not beyond it. But that love which comes from yourself, higher up, that is unconditional. That goes even to those who have harmed you. So it's not going to be easy to send love and to show affection, or even mentally to shower love and blessings to someone who has harmed you, because your ego will stop that. That's the job of the physical, mental and emotional body. But then your soul, yourself, breaks that taboo, breaks that limitation, and lets you be free. You become like beautiful butterfly from a caterpillar. You transform and you become beautiful being, bubbling with higher frequency of light. And that's what actually you are. So I'm just trying to squeeze you a little bit and ask you to go in, have self-talk, and ask yourself this question, that is that what you are? Just this limited body, just this limited life. You are limitless. The self will teach you you are limitless. I was telling you about your unlimited potentials, unlimited love and light. Just go within. While you're externally busy, just go within and find out the treasures that you have. The treasures that are hidden inside you is a potential to be unlimited, to explore your own self rather than exploring outside personality. And it is always when I bless you, when I talk to you, or when I heal you, or when I forgive you, or when I express my affections, or anything between you and me is basically an energy form. So the self in me adores the self in you. The self in me respects the self in you. The self in me gives credential to the self in you. Otherwise, we human beings are very small and petty to each other. So the self in me adores and respects the self the soul in you. And that is Namaste.